Today I wanted to talk about having Neptune in your first house. So, when a person has planets in their first house in their natal chart, those planets are a really big part of that person's identity. And the reason for that is because the first house is the house of the self. So, anything that's in our first house is going to be basically inside of us. So if you have a planet that is in your first house, you can kind of think of it like that planet is in you, which can be a very special thing because the planets are so beautiful and they have such beautiful energy and they're almost godlike, really. But also, just like everything, it can also be slightly kind of like a double-edged sword because sometimes it can be really intense carrying a planet's energy inside of you, if that makes sense. And I think that can be especially true when you're dealing with the outer planets. And Neptune is considered an outer planet, along with Uranus and Pluto. And the outer planets just mean that they're farther away from Earth, and they actually weren't discovered until the last couple hundred years, which is really interesting. So Neptune as a planet, it's the planet of a lot of different things, but on the one hand, you've got Neptune representing spirituality, mysticism, basically like the quest for meaning in life, for a higher purpose. So people with strong Neptune and someone with Neptune in the first house, they may not be interested in the mundane aspects of everyday life. And from a young age, they might find themselves yearning for experiences that transcend the mundane reality that we live in. They might also, from a young age, be sort of preoccupied with ideas of God and kind of like what lies beyond the veil. And they may even find themselves asking more existential questions like, why are we here? What are we doing here? And in that same token, someone with Neptune in their first house may also have a strong desire to serve and be of service, and almost in a way kind of like take on a really selfless role somehow in their life. Because when you think about, someone who's really spiritual, someone who's really connected to the divine, that kind of person may almost fantasize about kind of like giving themselves in service of the divine and being of service, being a conduit for the divine, and even like sacrificing, themselves for humanity or something along those lines. So with this placement, it's definitely, it has very spiritual, very peaceful and divine and mystical undertones to it. And then another part of this placement is that these people with Neptune in their first house are likely to be very empathetic and compassionate people, because Neptune is considered the higher octave of Venus, which means that Neptune is also all about love, like Venus is, but it's a higher love. So it's very selfless, a very selfless kind of love. And so people with Neptune in their first house, they have this selfless love inside of them. And in its highest expression, it can manifest as someone who is incredibly empathetic and compassionate towards other people, and also someone who is incredibly sensitive to the suffering of other people. And they can feel it very strongly, very deeply, in their bodies. And the danger of this is that these people are so sensitive and intuitive. They don't have as strong of a boundary as maybe people who don't have such strong Neptune in their charts. Because when you have really strong Neptune, the boundaries are blurred between you and your environment and between you and other people. And again, this is really a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it can allow people with Neptune in their first house to merge with others and their environment, and to be of service in a very compassionate and empathetic way. But at the same time, it can be honestly like a little bit dangerous, because the lack of boundaries essentially can mean a lack of protection, a lack of personal protection, and that can allow harmful energies to come in to this person's aura and this person's energy field. And when I say harmful energies, I mean like this person with Neptune in their first house is more susceptible to parasites. And this can be like energetic parasites who want to latch on to this person's empathy and love and compassion. And energetic parasites can sense when a person has weak boundaries. This can also be physical parasites. So someone with really strong Neptune, especially Neptune in the first house, they may have issues with digestive parasites in their system, because these entities can sense when somebody doesn't have super strong boundaries. So a huge part of this placement, if you have this placement, I would highly recommend working on strengthening your boundaries. And you can do this through like sort of like spell work, where you just try every day, you come up with some sort of ritual where you are engaging your mind to and you are speaking into existence that your boundaries are sealed, your boundaries are strong, you have an energetic wall around you, and you essentially are not allowing any entities or energies into your field that do not belong there or that do not serve your highest good. Another thing that you can do with this placement is you can just be very, very careful about who you let into your life, and you can be very careful about the environments that you allow yourself to go into, because not everyone deserves to be in your presence, and there are some people who may take advantage of your sensitivity and your gentleness and your empathy. So that's something to keep in mind with this placement, is consistently be working towards cultivating strong boundaries. Another way that you can cultivate strong boundaries is by sticking up for yourself, and you can say to yourself, I'm gonna say no if I don't want to do something. I'm not gonna people please. I'm going to put myself first, because again, with Neptune, there can be a desire to lose ourself in the environment or in other people and just merge fully with the other, get lost, even merge with the divine. And that can be incredibly beautiful, but it can also be very harmful to us, basically, as people. So we always have to be putting ourselves first and putting our safety first. That's so important when you have really strong Neptune in your chart. Now, one of the downsides of this placement is that Neptune, wherever it is in our chart, it's also the point where sometimes we don't see things clearly. it can be the point where we are deceived in some way. It can literally mean wherever it is, whatever house it is, whatever area of your life it is, in this case, the self, it's almost like it's blurred. And sometimes it can be incredibly frustrating because you actually cannot see this part of your life clearly for what it is. And that can be really difficult when it's in your first house, because it really truly means that sometimes you don't actually see who you really are. You don't see yourself clearly. And that can lead you to behave in certain ways that you normally wouldn't do if you could actually see yourself clearly. And I also think that in a lot of ways it can lead people with this placement to not see how special they are, because they just can't see it sometimes. I think not all the time, but I do think it can be really hard to see things clearly all the time wherever Neptune is in your chart. So that is why it can also be the planet of illusion. And another part of having really strong Neptune, and in this case Neptune in the first house, is that it can indicate that a person might engage in substance abuse or try to escape reality in some way. And when Neptune is in such a strong house like the first house, its presence, its energy is going to be so strong for this person that there could potentially be a tendency to want to escape and get lost in an alternate reality and not want to kind of stay in the real world. So that's just something to be aware of and to be careful about if you have Neptune in your first house. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about physical appearance, because when you have a planet in your first house, it actually affects your physical appearance. So having Neptune in your first house can make you appear very dreamy and ethereal, almost like there's a quality about you that is very soft, and it's mystical, and it's maybe even a little bit elusive or untouchable. And there could also be the potential that your appearance changes a lot depending on your mental state, or depending on the environment that you're in, or even the people that you're with. So because Neptune is so fluid, there's no boundaries, it's changeable. Your appearance can also be very changeable. And because Neptune is also so mystical, and it's the higher octave of Venus, so it can also be very romantic. There is the tendency, if you have this placement, for other people to see you and to actually see in you what they want to see, which is really interesting. And that can be your physical appearance. It can also be your personality. People project their fantasies onto you. So you may appear some way to some person, and then you may appear very differently to another person. And this could also be because with Neptune in the first house, you actually can have a tendency to kind of change your personality depending on who you're engaging with. It's almost like you're a chameleon. Like, you're able to adapt yourself really, really in a very intriguing way depending on your environment. You can kind of sort of shapeshift in a way, and you may have different personas that come out with different kinds of people. So again, like everything, it's a double-edged sword, but I think having any planet in your first house is an incredible gift and an honor, because the planets are so beautiful and special. So this really is a very, very special placement. And if you have this placement, you have the potential to be an incredible healer. And you have the potential to really make a difference in the world through your empathy and your compassion. So my advice would be maintain your strong boundaries and always put yourself first, and make sure your cup is full before you give to others. But also think about ways that you can use these incredible spiritual gifts that you have to make a positive impact in the world. And you can touch God. You have the potential to touch God, so in a way that most people can't. So that's very exciting. So best of luck, and if you have any comments or want to share your own experience, let me know in the comments below.